couple with a brick, brew and a friend, bleed orange and blue to the bitter end. Come and join us, DDNVR. We are DNVR.
We are DNVR. We are live from Studio A here at the DNVR bar. The A stands for Angeles, as in Los Angeles, where they are playing the Super Bowl this weekend. I've always loved the fact that it wasn't Win Angeles, it was Los Angeles.
Oh, wow. Never thought about that. Yeah.
There's a movie. Sleep at night.
Oh, that also helps with Las Vegas as well.
Yep.
Yep.
Exactly.
There's a movie in which it's San Angeles. You ever see Demolition Man?
No, but I would know San Andreas.
Right. Yeah. That's the one that I know.
After an earthquake, they refer to as the big one. It's in a kind of a quasi-dystopian future. San Diego and Los Angeles merge into one giant megalopolis.
Megalopolis.
That a city on the West Coast, and all the restaurants are Taco Bell.
Does hilarity ensue?
There are some hilarious moments. Like if you saw the movie, you would ask yourself, "How do you use the 3 seashells?" It's a mystery of the film because as it turns out, that's what they use in the bathroom. They don't no longer use toilet paper; they use 3 seashells. But nobody explains how to use the 3 seashells.
Wow, that sounds awful.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, you'd have to go soft side, of course, the round side.
How though? You might need some scoop action.
Anyway.
Oh boy.
But isn't the Super Bowl in Inglewood though?
Yes, or Englewood if we need an A for it.
Seriously.
Always up to no good.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, I want to talk a little bit about the Super Bowl today, but not necessarily we'll get into our picks. But I think what's really interesting about the Los Angeles Rams and the Cincinnati Bengals is the path that they took to get here. Honestly, while at the top of the path, they went to the same hiking area. But at the very beginning, there's 2 different paths you can take. Mm-hmm. And they instantly went in opposite paths. The first part of it is hiring an offensive head coach, right? The Rams hire Sean McVay, and then the Bengals go and just take right off of the Sean McVay tree and get Zach Taylor. So that's where they've started.
And both first-time coaches.
Right.
Young.
Since then, though, the way that they've built their teams couldn't be more different, in my opinion. You've got the Rams on one side, who have essentially just bought a team. Now, they have some pieces that were, pre-existing, like Aaron Donald. And you can go from there, but
St. Louis drafted him. Don't forget.
Yes. So then you look at it they traded for Jalen Ramsey, they traded for Matthew Stafford, they traded for Von Miller, they signed Odell Beckham Jr. It almost has like an NBA super team like feel, right? You just go and you get all these big names and you assemble a super team, and it's worked for them, right? They had the right coach, and he basically said, just give me the talent, man. I'll coach as well as anyone, and we'll be in those big games. And then you flip it over. Did you want to add anything to the style that the Rams have used to build the team?
Well, what's interesting is this is Sean McVay Rams 2.0. Sean McVay Rams 1.0 actually was a lot of draft and develop, because it's like they took path A, it only got them so far with Jared Goff, and then this is plan B that they're on. Totally.
Well, what's interesting, too, with that is how far they made it, and Sean McVay still abandoned that route. They made it to the freaking Super Bowl and pretty much a playoff team every single year, and he said, this isn't going to be able to get me there. We need to do a completely different method, which is what you described, Ryan.
And it worked, and that's what's important about it. The Bengals did the exact opposite, in my opinion. They tanked. For better or for worse, that's what it was. Now, it might not have been on purpose, and, we'll never know. Now that we know that owners are tossing out stacks for losses, then it's much more believable, in my opinion.
Well, you remember
Maybe Zach got paid for the losses.
Yeah. I doubt he did.
Stack.
But do you remember about midway through the season, they were like 0-7 or 0-8? and they benched Andy Dalton for Ryan Finley.
Yep.
And
Big time tank move right
yes,
there.
exactly. They actually made the move that a tanking team would have made then.
And the best part about it is the fan, and it also makes the fans happy, and you get to make a tank move, right? Because when you're 0-8, everyone wants to see the next quarterback.
Yep.
But what could you lose? Just put him out there. That's what I would be saying on this podcast.
They'd realized Andy Dalton had taken him as far as he was going to. Kind of like Sean McVay realized Jared Goff took him as far as he was going to.
And the most important thing about that was they kept Zach Taylor. They didn't fire him.
Yep.
Whether they knew that going into that first year with him or whether they just realized from bits and pieces that they got through that terrible season, this is the guy we still believe in him. Because they could have easily fired him and said, we went with the first-time head coach, a young guy who never called plays before. He was Sean McVay's backup play caller, and it didn't work. We're going to go on. We're going to fire him, move in a different direction. No one really would have blamed him, but they stuck with him.
It's the Bengals organizational MO operating there because, of course, Mike Brown has worked for the Bengals since their inception. He is still officially their general manager, even though Duke Tobin handles a lot of the guts of the personnel. But it's still his organization. First his dad ran it, then he did. And the Bengals have been a team over the years that have shown exceptional patience with coaches. Like, for example, they had Don Shula's son Dave back in the 90s, and they were dreadful. I think they were 5-11 the first year. I think they were like 3-13 the next year. Dave Shula made it to halfway through a fifth season, even though he never got above 500. And so they showed exceptional patience with him. They showed exceptional patience with Dick LeBeau, Bruce Coslett. And even with Marvin Lewis, they kept losing in the playoffs, but they stuck with him. Marvin Lewis ended up coaching that team 16 years without a playoff win. That's just the way the Bengals operate. Most people within the NFL, the Bengals are viewed as an outlier, kind of a mom and pop shop. They are also kind of infinitely patient with coaches, and it served them well here.
My thought is, of course they didn't fire him. He was executing the plan.
Right. And getting paid.
He got high marks for his first season. Did exactly what he was told to do.
I think they were just bad, but naturally. Again, kind of looking at how the Bengals are run, I don't think that's something they plan. I think it's something they accept.
I think it's something that they might not have planned before the season, but as the season started to roll along, they said, "Hey,
if you realize your
maybe
team,
winning isn't the best idea." Right
you
now.
realize that is your team potentially going into the season, isn't it smart to go with the young, inexperienced coach who has the high upside? Because what's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to do really bad that first season.
Yes.
And then what's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to do really bad another season, and then you're going to have back-to-back first picks in the draft, and then you realize he's not the guy. You move on. So, yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
So,
and I see some parallels with what the Broncos are doing.
Then they get a little bit of a stroke of luck, right? Because they hit on the quarterback, which that's not necessarily lucky when you have the number 1 overall pick, but you do need a little bit of luck. But more importantly, then he gets hurt. And so because they weren't going to be bad enough to get Jamar Chase last year if Joe Burrow plays the whole season.
They weren't great. They were 2-7-1 when he got hurt.
Okay, and what did they finish at?
4-11-1.
Okay, so they basically just continued on the path. I still think that they were going to win a few more games with Joe Burrow, but either way, doesn't really affect it. Then they kind of went counterintuitive, going with Jamar Chase over an offensive lineman. Everyone thought, you got to protect Joe Burrow, and they said, we got to give Joe Burrow his guy is what we need to do. And they have been proven extremely right. But in the end, it comes down to, are you going to go, because both teams were in the middle or towards the bottom when they started this path, especially if you go all the way back to early McVay, Are you going to buy your way up, or are you going to allow yourself to go backwards a little bit to then hit the bottom and go forward? And I think a lot of Broncos fans are saying, and I think that's why this is so interesting. A lot of Broncos fans are saying, give me Aaron Rodgers. Let's go be good for 3 years and figure it out after that. A lot of Broncos fans are saying, would you really want to be right back here in 3 years? And I wonder if you asked a Rams fan, now I don't know how many more years Matthew Stafford has, But if
He's 33, so potentially, 5 to 7 more.
He's pretty
But-
healthy.
yeah, but he could also, hang him up in 3.
Sure.
But I just wonder if there's any worry about that from their side. And maybe it's not about hanging it up, but it's about just falling off. Like, look at Matt Ryan.
Absolutely not. They're not worried about that.
I don't think they are either. And of course, Bengals fans feel amazing. They think we're a couple moves away from having a dynasty.
Yeah.
How could you not?
And think about it. Like, they basically delayed the offensive line construction a year. And I wonder if they would have taken Penei Sewell if you had not had an absolute stud receiver, a clear wide receiver one who already had experience with their quarterback. It was kind of a unicorn type of situation, right? That you can bring in somebody who is a truly generational talent at receiver, and they're going to be up to speed faster because this guy's already worked with Joe Burrow for a year. And it was almost like they said, all right, let's just roll the dice that we can keep Joe Burrow healthy for a year here, and they're 60 minutes away from getting him through this season unscathed, and then we're going to build the wall in front of him.
Yeah.
The Bengals, another thing, we'll get into it later, they hit on the free agents last year. I mean, they basically just came up ace in terms of the value they got for what they spent. But with, I think is it $58 million of cap space they have?
Who was the
They can build that line this year.
Who was the free agent who said something along the lines of like, "Are you going to play with Joe Burrow or Drew Lock?"
Yeah, it was the defensive lineman, I believe, from the Cowboy. I don't remember where, but yeah,
That was a real quote.
it was.
Yeah.
Yep, and that made his decision.
Right. Who was that?
I can't remember off the top of my head. It was 2 years. It was 2 years ago
Oh,
when Joe Burrow
was it DJ Reader?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and that.
And that was before Burrow had played an NFL snap. Think about that.
Right.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Yeah,
And
it really is.
He was right.
So then the question is, which path should the Broncos take? Which path is the best? And to me, it is so obvious. But there's a caveat to it. The best path is obviously Joe Burrow. You go and you get your young quarterback so that you have the quarterback for the next 2 decades potentially, at least 15 years. That's what you do.
I see what you
But
said
there's-
did with Young, by the way, slipping that in there. That was nice.
Oh, yes, exactly. Definitely intentional. But the issue, bless you, Allie, the issue here is the Broncos aren't close to doing that. They're not close enough to take that Bengals route this year and just be absolutely terrible. Yet they are on the cusp of potentially getting that, not just Matthew Stafford, a better Matthew Stafford.
So you're saying essentially you'd rather go the Burrow route and go backwards.
Yep,
Because this would be the perfect year to do it, right?
it would.
What
Go
are you clinging
backwards.
to? You have 5 straight losing seasons. What are we latched onto around here right now?
I have no idea. I have no idea. I mean, I've been saying tank for a while now.
You know what, though? It's George Payton, not necessarily Nathaniel Hackett, but George Payton saying, this is my second year. Now everything's under my belt. This is entirely on me now, and I'm going to have a new owner here. And this new owner, if we go 2-15, this new owner could say, what the F is going on here? Get out of here. I'm blowing this all up.
And we know ownership might not be resolved until the summer, basically. I mean, the hope is it's done by the season. But the owner, you obviously, if you went for this plan, you'd want the owner on board. But who owns the Broncos right now? And if you're going to execute this plan, you'd have to start with this plan basically at the new league year.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. You're not going to know. This is on
right.
George Payton. So if he puts out a terrible product this year, it's on him.
But can't you have a conversation with the new owner where you say, hey, look, there's 2 really great quarterbacks at the top of this next draft. We're going to start Drew Lock. We're not going to re-sign any of these defensive free agents. And we're going to let Teddy walk, and our backup is going to be Brett Rippon.
Start Brett Rippon, actually, because the thing with Drew Lock is he might be good enough to be kind of lower mid-tier, but on balance in the end, but wing you into a few wins. I don't think
You're
Drew
also
Lock-
like letting Bobby Massey go. And
See, and I think this is even more of a fantasy world than talking about the Broncos getting Kyler Murray. I think it's more realistic the Broncos get Kyler Murray than it is the Broncos start Brett Rippon and intentionally try to tank. So it's just it's a world that will never happen.
There's too much talent on this roster to get away with this unless you have unless you lose Judy, Sutton, Fant, Bowles, Javonte Williams, Justin Simmons, PS2, all the injuries.
Yeah, I mean, and it's true. It's not likely. It's very unlikely that the Broncos, and they would have to. I mean, it would be hard for them to hide what they were doing if they didn't, make any moves on the line, and you let people walk there, and you let people walk in on defense in free agency.
And you can't tell guys not to try. That's the problem. They're going to try when they're out there, and
you have to put together a bad team.
Look at Miami back in 2019. They basically they tried to tank more than the Bengals did that year, right?
Yeah.
And then you get to the back half of the season, and Miami's, they're upsetting Philadelphia. They actually went head to head with the Bengals toward the end of the season, and the Dolphins won head to head.
So here's how you would do it. You would do what the Detroit Lions did. You would sell, and you wouldn't hope that people get injured. You wouldn't ask guys to not try. You would sell. You would sell Bradley Chubb for a third, fourth round pick. You'd trade Cortland Sutton for a second round pick. You'd trade Jerry Jeudy for a second round pick. And it would be so obvious what you're doing. And then, Ryan, that's kind of George Payton's message to the new owner is, look, I intentionally am making this team bad this year so that not only do we have a good draft pick, but we have so much capital to rebuild. And that would be the selling point to a new owner is there was actually a plan. It wasn't just midway through the season you're telling a new owner, no, this was the plan. We want it to be bad. But it's doing it that intentionally. It was very intentional 1 year ago what the Detroit Lions were doing. They were being bad. And you would do things like
They traded their franchise quarterback.
Exactly. Yeah. And for 2 first-round picks and take on big contracts. That's what the Broncos would do here.
Yeah. It's really interesting. I mean, I guess the best of both worlds where you don't actually have to tank is if you roll the dice on Malik Willis and win.
Right.
But how are you guys feeling about where he's going to go?
He's going to be top 5.
You're going to have to move up. You're going to, at minimum, move up probably past Carolina.
But PFF Mike said he's not even one of the 5 best quarterbacks.
PFF Mike said that Will Grier was going to be a great quarterback.
Yeah, we've all had bad quarterback takes.
We have, I know.
But not seeing him in the top 5, I was like, this is borderline disrespectful.
Yeah, I mean, it's wrong.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
It's in that case, it's a failure to understand how the draft works and what teams are looking at quarterback and how there's a quarterback premium. You have to accept that if you think a quarterback compared to every other player in terms of just their talent, their abilities, if you think a quarterback is, say, 18th in the entire draft class, he's going to be top 5, maybe even top 3.
Well, I'm not even disagreeing that he's wrong about Malik Willis. I'm not sold that Malik Willis is an absolute stud in the NFL. I'm nowhere close to that.
Desmond Ridder.
That's ridiculous. But it's crazy to not open your eyes and see that he is trending way better than any other quarterback right now.
Completely. I mean, his stock is rising insanely fast.
He got better from day to day in Mobile. You could see him incorporating the concepts. You could see him becoming more comfortable under center. And look, I don't mean to make the Josh Allen comp, but that was Josh Allen's week 4 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. He got better from day to day, appreciably better. And so you had this guy with all these raw tools, all this raw athleticism, and he was quickly incorporating teaching into his game, which shows you that if Malik Willis gets to the next level, there's a good chance that if a coach tells him, okay, this is how you do it, it's going to become habit for him. He's not going to revert to bad habits. He's going to be able to change his habits.
Totally. Malik Willis really excites me. I hate when this happens. Like, I want to be the only one who knows this, because like it feels like every year I'm like, go all the way back to our first year at the Senior Bowl. It was like Baker Mayfield. He was like a fringe first-round quarterback in a lot of people's eyes. I remember, not to put him on blast, like I said, we've all had bad quarterback takes, but like Mark Kisla wrote a column saying like the Broncos would be insane to take Baker Mayfield at 5. And at the time I was like, he won't even be there. He's going to go ahead of it. It feels like every time we go into the Senior Bowl, there's some guy who's like unknown that we kind of like, and then he balls out and he's gone.
Yep, and there's nothing that's going to slow him down. He doesn't have to go back to Liberty in the spring and put out inconsistent tape like he did in the past. People know that already about him.
The further he gets away from the tape, the better he's going to get.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What's he going to do at the Combine? He's probably going to blow people away with his
like
meetings.
4,
and he's
4,
gonna,
5.
he's going to run. So I saw something where it was unofficial, but he ran in the 4.3s.
If that happens,
If he does that,
Oh my God.
yeah, I mean,
he's going number 1.
He's going number 1, but the Jacksonville Jaguars will get a haul for that first pick.
Or
I really think so.
Yeah, they get a haul, or it might be simply be Detroit saying, "Hey, we coached him, we really like him. Can we just make a deal where we give you a pick to move up, and then you still get your guy because you're not going quarterback?"
There was a respected draft analyst. I wish I could remember. There's so many; it's hard to keep track. Who said Malik Willis is the most elusive runner in the entire draft, not quarterback. The entire draft.
I believe it based on what we've seen.
So someone's gonna fall in love with him, and now you get back to the whole idea of like, are you willing to trade 2 firsts for him?
Right.
And it really changes the equation.
Yep, it does. It certainly does. And we just went from no quarterbacks in the draft 2 weeks ago to now an absolute
Would you trade
stud
2
that
firsts?
you're willing to trade for. Yep.
Okay, let me just to tie a bow on the subject.
Yeah.
Mace, which path do you think is better for the Broncos?
Tear down, get the quarterback, build up from there.
Ooh, like it.
You disagree?
Yeah. I mean, if I had full control of it, then yes. But I don't. First of all, I think the Broncos are like, for lack of a better term, scared of the fans. Like, they can't really. They don't do a very good job of like handling the blowback of bad football. And you have to put like, we've seen bad football around here for the last 5 years.
But they've been trying to sell it as not bad football. That's
So much worse football on the field than what we've seen. They've just been too close to being good in the last 5 years to even get anywhere near the number 1 or number 2 overall pick, which this year you could probably go with either of them. So I don't think they actually have the balls to do it. And it's because of the brand, honestly, I think. Like, the brand of the Denver Broncos is, like, really strong. It just in terms of that's a winning franchise. That's a staple franchise of the NFL. No one thinks that about the Bengals. You know what I mean? It's easy for them to tank. It's easy for the Lions to tank or the Jaguars to tank. The Broncos, I don't know. I don't actually agree with this, but I think they feel like we're above that. We're better than that.
They absolutely do. 100%. And also the organization not being on the same page, with a new owner coming in just after you have to make this decision on which way to go. The general manager not being a first-year general manager like the head coach. Everything's just off right now.
I had a conversation one time with someone, and I said, how many championships do your teams need to win in your lifetime for that to be a successful lifetime as a sports fan? And we came to the conclusion of 10. If you get 10 championships in your life, that was a great sports life.
College or pro? Counting all
Total.
of it?
And from an entire city, not just one team.
Yeah.
Just, or your fan base. Like if you've got a collection.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
if you have a collection, it seems unfair
I
anyway.
think
Some
we're
of-
thinking
some
Denver
of us have
sports.
moved
We're-
around.
We're
I know.
thinking
Yeah.
Nuggets, Rockies, Avs, and Broncos.
But it's too easy to pick and choose the best team from
Right.
that region. Not saying you did that.
Each of the teams that I love win a championship just once.
Yeah, I mean,
And 40 years from now, though, you'd be like, why haven't the Eagles won?
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
40 years.
yeah.
But so Denver then you're talking about 3 for the Broncos, 2 for the Avs, although that looked like a team that was headed toward number 3 last night.
Yep, they always, they look a lot like that.
Yeah. And then none for the Rockies, and so you're at 5. And let's throw in CU in 1990.
Well, that wasn't in my lifetime, but I would love to take that one. No, so what I was getting at here is just give me the best chance at winning a Super Bowl. And if you get one, you just never think twice about anything after that. Like, no one is thinking twice about getting Peyton Manning. It's just no one's even close to
I will
thinking
say
about
this, though, and I say this in my role as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer enthusiast. You know, you win the Super Bowl, and then you don't win another playoff game for the next 17 seasons, and then you win it again. I'm just telling you, that's a grind, guys.
Totally is.
That's rough.
And if there was a more clear path to just drafting a guy and making that the guy, then I'd be in on that. But I just don't think there is. Give me Aaron Rodgers. Give me a championship. Get me to 6. I'm trying to get to 6.
And then that year after, you want to get to 7.
Of course.
With Aaron coming back.
Yep. That was a fun conversation, and I think either one. The problem is the Broncos have been doing neither.
Yep, they've been right in the middle, and that's the thing that concerns me the most is if they don't get Aaron Rodgers, that it's Jimmy G to keep the ship afloat this year because they want to prove to the new owner and they want to prove to the fan base that, look, no, we're still trying. And that's what scares me the most because then what do? You do what you've done the past 5 years.
No one wants to be in purgatory. Just go to heaven or go to hell.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, basically, you're setting yourself up to be the 2020s version of the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, no one
good
wants
enough to compete, good enough to give opponents some tough games, and maybe in a 10-year stretch you win a couple of division titles, but you don't accomplish anything notable.
Maybe the Broncos can just get lucky and get the best player in the league in the last round of the draft, like the Denver Nuggets did. They'll be on tonight at the DNVR bar. You can come on down, hang out here, watch our Lord and Savior Nikola Jokic dominate basketball like he does every single time he goes on the court. And you can watch with like-minded people and have a great time here just cheering on the Nuggets. Friday nights with a team on at the bar are undefeated. So come down tonight, hang out. You can get that new chicken sandwich that we have. You can get an RK special. I haven't talked about RK specials in a while.
Yeah,
Push those again. Get yourself an RK special and a chicken sandwich tonight. Watch the Nuggets and have a great time down here at the DNVR bar.
And then tomorrow when you wake up, throw a scoop of athletic greens in 8 to 12 ounces of water, and man, that'll get your day started. Very, very good. And man, does it help with so many things. Well, what is athletic greens? It's a powder you get, and you just put a scoop in the morning in some water, and not only do you get so many vitamins, you get greens as well, and you also get so many probiotics, which helps with gut. And I've been on it for a week now, and I'm already feeling so much better. It's such an easy thing to add to your diet, to your day, and it's cheaper than your daily cup of coffee. And all it is 8 ounces in the morning.
Yeah, I'm like an athletic greens addict now.
Yeah.
Like I feel weird if I don't have it in the morning.
I missed one morning this week, and I felt just off the entire day.
Yeah, it's something that you once you have it, you're like, wow, I've been starting my day wrong my whole life.
Yeah.
And I have battles with like heartburn and stuff like that, and I feel like that's been down for me ever since I started taking the athletic greens. So highly recommend.
And if
Travel pouches too.
yes, they do have travel pouches. You can get 5 free travel pouches and 1 year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D by going to athleticgreens.com/Broncos, and you get both of those with your first order of Athletic Greens.
There we go.
You imagine those athletic greens might help the guys on the American Raptors, perhaps.
I should get in on that.
They could maybe use that. Of course, the American Raptors. You heard talk about the Raptors, the Colorado Raptors, the Glendale Raptors. They're the American Raptors. They've rebranded, and this rebrand is here to stay. Of course, the American Raptors. They're composed of crossover athletes who are taking up the game of rugby. So they come from basketball, baseball, soccer, track, you name it. They're taking their athletic skills to rugby with the hope of upgrading the quality of athletes and players on the U.S. national rugby team. So you can check out their development over at Infinity Park, and you can watch them this season for free. That's right, for free. Go to AmericanRaptors.com and grab your free ticket for the upcoming season. And if you can't make it over to Infinity Park, just watch their matches on AmericanRaptors.com. They're going to be streamed on their website. And of course, our guy Colton Strickler has it all covered for you at DNVR Rugby and on the DNVR Rugby podcast. If you want to learn more about the game of rugby, there's always some rugby popping. And hey, if you want to bet on it, plenty of opportunities to do that. Listen to the DNVR Rugby podcast. You'll learn about the sport of rugby. You'll learn the ins and outs and get to know a pretty fun game as well. Check all that out.
A lot of times we start our second segment with like a news update. Can we get like I want like a music. I want like a specific music for that where I'm like, all right, let's go to Zach in sports. Zach, what's going on here? And then we feel like,
Well, last night, Ryan, the Hall of Fame had their NFL honors, and Some big snubs for the Broncos. And the biggest one shocked me. I had 10 tweets ready to go for DeMarcus Ware going into the Hall of Fame. And guys, not only did DeMarcus Ware not make the Hall of Fame, I thought a lot of people ahead of him just were not nearly as qualified. You know, some years you're like, okay, there's 15 guys that should be in. I get it if my guy or the Broncos guy doesn't get in. This year, no, I think it's a weak Hall of Fame class with an extremely strong guy in DeMarcus Ware who should have been in. And he was snubbed.
Yeah, I don't think it's a weak class. I think it's a class that certainly lacks sizzle. But it just seems like that the Hall of Fame selection committee, as a group, decided, all right, we've got some guys who've been waiting for a while. Let's just get them in and kind of clear the deck a little bit. Tony Baselli has been a perpetual finalist. And, of course, he's kind of in on the Terrell Davis case. Short career, but although it was short, it was brilliant. Baselli was on the trajectory that had him head toward being maybe the greatest tackle of all time before injury struck him down after just 7 seasons. So
he may be the most deserving in my mind.
Yeah. Richard Seymour, Bryant Young.
Tony Baselli, shout out Fairview High School.
Yes,
Yep,
exactly. You can maybe argue the greatest player ever produced by the state of Colorado.
Ooh, that's interesting. In football?
Yes.
Interesting. I'd have to think on it, but I like it.
There's a legit case for that. And hey, you'd want that because he's
Exactly.
a Fairview guy like you. So, Bryant Young and Richard Seymour. I mean, okay, Seymour, let's face it, he's got the Patriot bump. I don't know if we're talking about Richard Seymour being a Hall of Famer if he played for, say, Cincinnati. Let's be fair.
So here's what just for lack of a better term, just disgusts me about the Hall of Fame. All of the little words that you just used, like, well, maybe the committee just decided this, or he got the Patriot bump. Like, it just makes me want to bang my head into a wall. And I've always had issues with the Hall of Fame, and I honestly just don't even get excited or into it anymore because of all that BS.
What blows my mind and why I thought it was a lock that DeMarcus Ware, besides being 9th in the NFL in all-time sacks, being a 9-time Pro Bowler, having all the accolades to him, he won a Super Bowl with the Broncos, but he was a Dallas Cowboy, and that should not play into the equation, but it does. I am blown away. That's why I thought he was an automatic lock.
He got the Cowboys bump up, but then he had to fight against the Broncos bump down.
He had the Broncos back.
Yeah.
But he was a Cowboy when they weren't doing anything.
But he's still a Cowboy.
Oh,
Being a Cowboy
I know.
carries all the weight in the world in these things.
It usually
I
does.
thought.
Yeah, but obviously.
So you don't think DeMarcus Ware should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer?
I don't think I didn't think he was a slam dunk. I don't think it'll take him long.
Next year's a tough class.
Yeah,
and that's what's a bummer is
But here's the argument that I think you can make for DeMarcus Ware. Let's talk about sack numbers, right? Jason Taylor, 139 and a half sacks, had a career that was a little bit longer than DeMarcus Ware's. DeMarcus Ware, 138 and a half, wins a Super Bowl with Denver, is a part of a championship team. I mean, he wasn't just a passenger that was on the Broncos plane to Super Bowl 50. He and Von Miller were the plane.
I mean, he had 3.5 sacks in that run. It was
he
incredible.
was just as good in the postseason run that year as Von Miller.
Yep.
They were equals. And I look at that on his resume and Jason Taylor. And Jason Taylor was a first ballot. He had one more career sack, having played 3 more seasons. And DeMarcus is waiting. So it's the varying standards here that I think you can object to. I'm glad Baselli got in.
Yeah.
Leroy Butler should have been in, kind of like Steve Atwater, should have been in a long time ago. And Sam Mills, that they need to squeeze him in. He's deserved to be in for a long time too.
Yeah. And
my objection. I looked at Bryant Young and Richard Seymour and their resumes. DeMarcus had a better lecture. Not to mention, look at the receiver backlog continues. I think the last 2 in should have been Torrey Holt and DeMarcus Ware.
Brian, do you think DeMarcus Ware should have been a slam dunk?
Yes.
Like I do as well?
I mean, you said the case right there. But the problem is that it being a first ballot Hall of Famer is like one of the greatest honors you can ever have. And it's a sliding scale that changes every year. And it's just one of those things that's weird. Like, one guy was a first ballot Hall of Famer, but he got in a weak class, but he always gets to carry that first ballot Hall of Famer thing. And no matter what, DeMarcus Ware never can now. And you mentioned it. It's a tough class next year. All of a sudden, you're not the hot name, and you start just sliding down the board, and, it's another tough class. And this is the year that Tom Brady's going, and it just – so that stuff worries me. And like I always say, I wish it wasn't so important to the players. And if it wasn't, then I would just swear it off entirely.
Right.
But because it matters to them, it has to matter to me.
Yep, and something else that happened at the NFL Honors last night, Justin Simmons was up for Walter Payton Man of the Year for the third straight year. He didn't get it, but it's hard to be upset about that because it went to Andrew Whitworth, who is incredibly deserving. I thought he had a fantastic speech. My guess is Justin Simmons will be the Broncos' Walter Payton Man of the Year next year, and he'll get another shot at this. I got to think at some point he does win this award.
He needs the team to be better. I think that's holding him back. And that's where, if you get the quarterback, come hell or high water. If the Broncos are a playoff team this year, would not at all surprise me if that's enough to make Justin Simmons Man of the Year at this time next year.
Potentially. And speaking of the quarterback, Aaron Rodgers won MVP for the second straight year. And a little controversial speech. Nothing he said, but the way people interpreted it. Mace, did you hear the speech?
The speech was interesting.
Did you hear it?
I did hear it,
So-
but I think the comments that he gave afterward in the press conference were actually more illuminating.
Well, and let's talk about the speech really quick. One thing he did in the speech was he thanked everyone with Green Bay. He thanked his teammates. He thanked his coaches, made a little joke at Matt LaFleur in a fun way. But then he thanked the people at the top of the organization, including the general manager, which he obviously had many problems with over the past couple of years. But he said over the past few months how that relationship has gotten much better. I took his entire speech as, shoot. He seems very happy. I mean, he thanked all of these guys and wasn't afraid to single all of these guys out. And I thought, darn. A lot of other people took it as this was his goodbye to the Green Bay Packers. I didn't take that at all from it. I took it as, thanks, guys, for doing things the way I wanted to do it and getting me back-to-back, helping me get back-to-back MVPs.
Yeah, what he said after.
Well, how did you interpret the speech?
I thought you could find reasons for everything in that speech. Reasons that he's leaving because he kind of talked about the 17 seasons and was very reflective kind of on the past. Reasons to stay because he's thankful for that. I mean, basically, this is, what do you want to see from it? You could see retirement.
That's what I saw.
And honestly, if you're looking at the three possible destinations here, trade most likely to Denver, staying in Green Bay, retirement, and said, okay, which vibe did you get the most from me? I got the retirement vibe a little bit more. And
that's not what I wanted to hear, so I wasn't just saying what I wanted to hear.
And then when he had his press conference after, I mean, he had a lengthy answer. He said things like he praised the coaches. He said, it's bittersweet losing Nathaniel just because I love him like a brother. He's an amazing guy. And Luke Getsy, younger than me but feels like an older brother, and as far as where he is in his life, excited for him and his opportunity. Going to miss those guys, though. And it was interesting. So he talked about Nathaniel Hackett and Luke Getsy and that he's going to miss them. He said more to kind of praise the Packers organization, mentioned Brian Gutekunst, mentioned Russ Ball, who's kind of does a lot of the finances up there cap-wise.
Pays him.
Right.
Yeah, I would think that guy too.
But there's a lot of work being done on the contract. But then he also said this, quote, I talked at length at various times about being comfortable walking away and just not playing. I don't want to create more questions than I probably already have, but I don't fear retirement. I don't fear moving on. I'm very proud of what I've accomplished, proud that I've accomplished it in Green Bay over the last 17 years, and I'm excited about the future, whatever that ends up being or looking like. Also still highly competitive and still that bitter taste in the divisional game, so definitely a lot to weigh, unquote.
It really sounds like he is trying to convince himself to retire. That it's him trying to swallow the fact of he's done.
You can't retire as the best player in the NFL. I'm sorry. I won't allow it.
What about Tom Brady?
Yeah.
I mean,
wasn't the
arguably,
best.
he should have. A lot
voters
of
said
people
no.
think. A lot of people
The
think he
voters
should
said
have
no.
been.
I mean, there are two
Second best at best.
What are the two best ways to retire? Retire as the best player, or you retire winning the Lombardi. And it's damn hard to do either. Maybe he looks at it and says, okay, I don't know if I can retire winning Lombardi. I mean, literally at quarterback, only John Elway and Peyton Manning have done that. But this is, if I can't do that, this is a pretty damn good way to go out.
What?
And look, he's in the celebrity culture. You know, he's hosted Jeopardy. He'd like to be a permanent host of Jeopardy. And if you're in that celebrity culture, if you have that showman in you, one of the things is leave him wanting more.
Man, we had this conversation, a week ago or 2 weeks ago when Tom Brady retired. It's not even close to me. Going out on top as a winner is so much better than going out on top as in terms of a player. And if he's speaking of that competitive nature, I would hope that competitive nature is talking about winning, not just him being really good.
Well, and that's why, like, the responses that he gave, whatever you want to believe, he said something to affirm that. If you want to believe he's retiring, he said something to affirm that. If you want to believe he could go to Denver, he said stuff to affirm that. If you want to believe that he's going back to Green Bay, there's stuff there. There was something for everybody in his speech and then in his responses after.
Unfortunately, and I've been on the Aaron Rodgers, all signs are pointing to him becoming a Denver Bronco. I think everything he said last night points to him either playing with the Packers or him retiring. I think those comments in his speech and then also those comments after pointed more so to retirement.
Maybe it's just about what mood he's in that day and how he talks about it, you know?
That's very true.
Maybe you want to go through this year after year, month after month, though.
Maybe sure.
If you've got him on
if you
your
have
team,
Aaron Rodgers, I don't care about
Yeah.
anything else. Like maybe he's going to be on the match in a couple weeks or something. And that day he's going to be all talking about, I saw Tom do it and I saw Peyton do it. And I see all these guys, go to another place and it looks like they have so much fun meeting a new fan base. And, like, again, I'm just saying it's a possibility that last night he was just feeling, nostalgic about the Packers.
Also, I think something that we can't ignore with Aaron Rodgers is he likes the drama. He likes the spotlight. He loves people talking about him. This is the "we'll see" comment that we talked about. That was 100% intentional in my mind. He does everything intentional to keep the spotlight on him. You said he's a Hollywood guy. He is. And you know what Hollywood people, they want the spotlight on him. So I wouldn't be, he says this is going to wrap up soon. I don't think it's going to wrap up tomorrow. I think he's going to draw it out as long as he can with being respectful to who I think he cares about the most in this is Devontae Adams, is to make sure that...
Not Shailene?
No, I think Devontae Adams is his guy.
It's his work spouse, I think you can say. He's all about, like, kind of playing to the audience, right? We'll see when Broncos fans are yelling at him, that's playing to the audience.
Totally.
I think it's playing to him. I think he wants to play to him.
He's a showman. At this point in life, based on, not only as a player but even the part of him that really wants to be hosting Jeopardy at some point, he's a showman.
Do you think he knows?
I would love for him
Do you guys
to be a
think he
showman
knows?
in Denver. What he's doing?
Yep.
No.
I think he hasn't made. I think it is legit that he hasn't made up his mind, but I think he also enjoys kind of seeing how everybody jumps on the breadcrumbs that he puts out there.
That's what it is to me. I think he knows what he's doing.
And
I
this-
think he knows what
Playing
he's
us
doing.
all like
And also,
American.
if it's retirement, I think it's going to be tough for him to swallow being in Tom Brady's retirement class and Hall of Fame class. But I think the further he stretches this, the further away he gets from Tom Brady and the more conversation it'll be about him.
But what if
Real
Tom
quick.
Brady
And
comes
what
back
this
with
is-
another team?
It's all about him.
Like that's the thing. Like, what if Tom Brady's using this to try to get traded to his hometown
well, I
club?
think
I
that is
don't-
what's happening.
I
Yeah.
don't think you can retire at peace when you're the best player in the league. Just don't think you can. And I think Tom's going to battle the exact same thing. When he looks out there, let's say he doesn't come back before the season starts. When he starts looking out there on Sundays and watching all the crap quarterbacks that the NFL has to offer and realizing, oh my God, I'm so much better than all these guys. He's gonna kill him. It's gonna eat away at his soul.
I think it's the exact same thing though as John and Peyton retiring. Even though they were on the downward, especially when they see
downward. Neither of them were close to it.
They were hurt. Those two. They were injured.
But when they see the Broncos the next year miss the playoffs and look so different, they probably say the exact same thing of, man, look, they lost an inside linebacker and they lost Peyton Manning. They lost, a corner in free agency, and they lost John Elway. They probably view it the same way, though.
Yeah. I think that there's just something about still being great that makes it extremely difficult to truly move on.
I could see him retiring and then coming back after a year. Like I think, how many, Michael Jordan sat out, like 2 seasons? Two seasons, 3 seasons, thereabouts?
Was it that long?
I thought it was one.
No,
just over
he
one.
he retired in 98. 99 was a strike year. 2000, he came back.
You're talking about the second time.
Yeah, I'm not talking about when he left the Bulls midway through. I'm talking about when he left the Bulls after winning the 6th title, and they showed up with the Washington Wizards 3 years later. I don't think it would be 3 years, but I could see Rodgers sitting back for a year and then be like, okay, I'm coming back.
Why did he go to the Wizards?
He had part ownership and he was team president. It was a weird thing, but because of that, it was arranged for him to just step out of the front office.
I see what we're saying.
Play.
We're saying Peyton buys the team and then comes back next year, baby.
Oh God,
Peyton. Oh.
Well, that was, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think that I don't think he knows. I think he wakes up every morning and depending on his mood, he changes his mind, and that's why we keep getting mixed signals.
Then maybe we won't know in a month from now.
All right, last thing we got to get to here, boys. Super Bowl predictions.
And really quick, you can get those Super Bowl odds over at DraftKings Sportsbook, where right now they're giving 56-1 odds, of course, for Super Bowl 56. If you bet $5 on either team to win and they win, you get $280 in free bets over at DraftKings Sportsbook. No better way to start your account with that. We're about to give our picks right now. You can piggyback off those, or you can say, I don't think you guys know what you're talking about. I'm going to go the opposite way. And, of course, download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code DNVR when you sign up to get this offer. That's code DNVR over at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, Colorado only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700.
If you win that $280, you're gonna have a big smile on your face. You're gonna want that smile to look pretty, so you're gonna go see our friends over at Green Mountain Dental Group. Schedule a cleaning, x-ray, and exam with our friends over there. They'll hook you up with a free Sonicare toothbrush. They're probably talking Super Bowl over there this week. All big sports fans, big Denver sports fans especially. Maybe they're talking about that big Avs win last night. I know they're big Avs fans, so check them out. They've supported us for a long time, so if you support them, that means a lot to us as well. All right, boys.
You know, World War III is trending right now on Twitter.
Seems fine. Let's go into this game really quick. We do have some questions to get to, so we won't go too long here. Zach, what are your thoughts?
I love Joe Burrow, and I love Zach Taylor, and I love what they're doing. I can't get past Von Miller, Aaron Donald, Leonard Floyd against that Bengals offensive line. Joe Burrow, he's done fantastic, and they had to do this against Chris Jones last week, and they were able to get it done. Somehow, Joe Burrow, and again, he's fantastic, was able to get sacked 9 times against the Titans and win. But I think there's a difference between the Titans' defensive line. I think there's a difference between the Chiefs' defensive line, even with Chris Jones, than there is with the Rams and Aaron Donald, Von Miller, and Leonard Floyd. I love the value play of Aaron Donald and or Von Miller being the MVP of this game, because I think they are going to destroy the Bengals offensive line. And with that said, I like the Rams and the 4 points.
Ooh, okay. Mace?
I like the Rams. I think they win by double digits for the exact same reasons. I think they're gonna control the game at the line of scrimmage. This is going to be a bridge too far for the Bengals' protection. Joe Burrow will make some plays, probably bring down the stretch, garbage time. But I think the Rams, they're going to control the pace. They're going to control at the line of scrimmage. They're going to win comfortably around, say, 31-17.
Are me and May still tied in our picks?
You are both 47 and 32.
Well, I'm not going to let it end in a tie.
Yes.
I would rather lose than tie. And so because of that, I will take the Bengals. I have a hard time imagining how they're going to do it, but they are number one in my team of destiny rankings that I formulated at the beginning of the playoffs. So at least they have that on their side. A little bit of destiny is what they're going to need, because it's not even just a pass rush that scares me. Then you just throw Jalen Ramsey on Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so now you're asking, T. Higgins and whoever else out there to get open quickly, because Jamar's locked down and the pass rush is coming.
Yeah.
And that scares the hell out of me. I think they're going to have to run the ball really well.
Yep.
And that's a big ask for a subpar offensive line. But maybe, Matthew Stafford throws a pick six or something like that. Things like that completely change games. So I'll ride with the Bengals. I don't feel great about it, but I'm not letting this end in a tie. I'd rather lose than tie.
I love it. And of course, with these picks, we're not picking against the spread, so you don't even get the 4 points.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, I love it. And what's crazy, not only your team of destiny heading into the playoffs, the Bengals had the second worst odds to win the Super Bowl in the preseason. They were 125
so Vegas
to
is
1.
rooting against them.
Oh, yes. And you got to imagine the Rams were a top 4 team, right? You probably put the Chiefs. I don't think Vegas was putting, maybe the Bills, I guess, actually.
Chiefs, Bills,
Bucks, and Packers. So maybe top 5 team. Top
Probably.
5. So, yes, they definitely want the Rams to win this.
I wonder how much action they actually brought in on the Bengals.
Right?
So.
Right. Oh, gosh, and thinking about it, it's so easy to do, 9 months later? Why would you not sprinkle a little bit on the Bengals at minus 125?
I was really worried before the season just about Joe Burrow coming back.
That's true.
Healthy. I didn't like the fact that he was going to start the season, because I was just worried about his knee and his health. I thought they were rushing him back potentially, but it feels like, again, destiny. It feels like every button they press is the right button.
Yep, it really does. It really does.
And just to be fair to the Bengals and their defense, they have some guys who create some havoc back there too and make things difficult for Matthew Stafford. But they don't have a cup stopper.
Yeah.
The same way that the Rams have a chase stopper.
It's a great point.
And I think that's gonna really be the difference.
Yep, and Sean McVay going to get his first Super Bowl.
What a guy. What a guy. That guy cracks
Can
me
you
up.
imagine the party he's going to have?
Oh, it's gonna be epic. Cabo, do we just go post up in Cabo? Just
Yeah,
hopefully
shows
run into
next
him?
week.
Yeah.
Hey, brings him one step closer to that broadcast career I think he's going to have at some point.
His voice is like a little bit tough to listen to, I gotta admit.
Tony Romo doesn't have the greatest broadcast voice, and
No, but
it works out fine.
it doesn't, like, I don't know. Sean McVay has like a cringy tone, to me at least. Like when he talks, I'm like, all right, are you done yet? and I don't want to feel that way because I like what he has to say.
I think he's got a lot of personality though.
He does.
That's the thing. Like if your voice isn't kind of the classic broadcast voice, you bring the personality. It's fine. I mean, John Madden didn't have a classic broadcast voice.
I don't need a classic broadcast voice. His voice is just overtly annoying.
Yeah. I don't get that.
Some people
vibe
have
at
said
all.
the same about me, so I understand, Sean. Guys, really quick, on DraftKings Sportsbook, what would have to happen for this bet to hit? Plus 15,000 for the position of the MVP to be an offensive lineman.
Oh man, I just don't know if it's possible without 2 touchdowns.
So Andrew Whitworth shuts down the Cincinnati Bengals, and that because it's got to be a name, right? And he's the biggest name. And then he goes out and he catches one
And
from
then
Matthew
recovers a
Stafford, and then
fumble.
gets a fumble and runs it in.
it would have to be whoever for the Bengals is on Aaron Donald. Like, do you remember that Bronco Chief game in 2013? The story was Chris Clark shutting down, I believe, Justin Houston in that game.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, like Peyton Manning wasn't touched. Like, if you'd done an MVP for that game, it would have been Chris Clark. So that's the only way I could see it. But again, there's never been an offensive line be Super Bowl MVP. So this seems like a fool's errand to bet on this.
Is MVP decided by the media in attendance?
It's like a group of like 50 media members in attendance. Yes.
Okay. So, do they get to like deliberate? Does anyone get to make a case?
They do, and then also if it comes down to the last minute and it's off, and then they can kind of check with everybody and say, oh, well, so and so had the game-winning touchdown pass. You're okay with the vote.
Because I was going to say, like,
sliding thing.
I got a vote for all Pac-12 tournament team when I was covering that, but like there's just a link, and then you just go on and leave.
And then there
was no like deliberation.
Is there still the fan voting that's like counts as like 5% or something during
for
the game
Super Bowl MVP
online?
If so,
They've
you'll
done that in the
definitely
past.
see it on commercials throughout the game.
Yeah, I was gonna
Guarantee
say
you that.
if it's like presented by Breckenridge Brewery or
Right,
something.
and it would be.
Yeah,
You know it.
That would be a good investment.
What's more likely, an offensive lineman winning MVP or a long
Kicker.
snapper?
Oh, offensive lineman for sure.
You get
Well,
kicker,
long snapper
punter,
could have like a forced fumble on a punt.
pick
that-
it up, return
Yeah.
it for a
Yeah.
touchdown.
That
and-
wins the game.
And if it's a 10-7 game,
Oh my god. What about McPherson, Super Bowl MVP?
let's
They win
see.
15-10, and he's 5 for 5,
what's-
all from 50 plus.
That I can't. I'll look at that when we.
Okay.
I could actually see that
Plus 13,000.
Let's go.
I could. Okay, that's
Maybe we're the sprinkle.
yeah. That's the one right there. I think if you're gonna just take a flyer, why not? That's the bet.
I like that one.
Yeah.
That excites me.
DJ Reader, we talked about him earlier, right?
Yes.
Plus 30,000 to be the MVP.
Wow, that's a lot. That's
Yeah.
more. That's 3 times as much as a kicker, essentially.
Yep.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yep.
They must not expect him to play.
Logan Wilson, local
Yep.
guy, plus 50,000.
That's. I feel like that's crazy. We've seen we've unfortunately
We have
seen a
seen it.
linebacker win Super
Yeah.
Bowl MVP right here.
Yep.
Unfortunately and fortunately,
Well, yeah, I guess if you count, I was thinking more interior.
like inside
linebacker.
Malcolm Smith. Yeah.
All right, let's jump into questions. I know we got a couple super chats here, so let's hit those real quick. Oh, just one here from Anna Maney. Anna Maney. With Ware failing to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, do you feel it'll be even more difficult for Vaughn? Ware has significantly better career numbers.
This is a fantastic point, and one of the things that I should have mentioned earlier, because I definitely thought of, and yes, absolutely. I thought Von Miller. I didn't think Von Miller was a lock for first ballot, but I
didn't
thought he
either.
was certainly trending that way, and now he's not trending that way. He has to.
Win on Sunday.
If he wins on Sunday, that will help. I think Super Bowl wins help the quarterback position a lot more. Now, if he gets Super Bowl MVP, then
it's
yes,
over,
he's
yeah.
a lock. And that is one thing that Vaughn does have over DeMarcus is the Super Bowl MVP. But like Mace mentioned, DeMarcus Ware was almost just as important in that playoff run. So if these deliberations for the Hall of Fame really are, 12 hours or people in a room, and it's not just going on a link and clicking based off numbers, and it is deliberation, then DeMarcus Ware should have had just as good of a chance because of that playoff run that Vaughn had. I don't think that Von Miller has as good of a chance. At 24 hours ago, I would have thought he's first ballot Hall of Famer. Right now, I don't. But he is trending better with the Rams right now.
I wonder how many like high-profile edge rushers have won 2 Super Bowls with 2 different teams. Because it was very rare for a quarterback just a couple years ago.
Yep.
Now we've seen it, twice in the last 6 years. So I'm just curious, is that a tough thing to do? Is it tough for any position to win a Super Bowl with 2 different teams?
But it probably does not happen that often.
Charles
So-
Haley.
So as a pass rusher?
Yes.
So there you go. I mean, but I think it's one of those things that's going to be a huge feather in his cap. He wasn't just part of a dynasty, or they just won back to back or whatever. Like he won on one place, he went in, and he was the guy. He went and had a huge impact on another one in another place. I think that'll really help. On top of having the Super Bowl MVP over DeMarcus.
Man, he's still 30 sacks shy of DeMarcus. He can have 10 more sack seasons.
Yeah. Or 4.
But is he going to? Because the way he's playing with the Rams right now, I say absolutely. The way he's played with the Broncos the past 2.5 years, and now obviously one of them was an injury, no way.
If he stays with the Rams, he'll probably do it.
Yep. And that would be him, building the legacy would
Yep.
be staying with the Rams.
Yep. Also, his postseason numbers, the fact that he keeps racking up sacks.
Yep.
In these playoff games.
So you think you're kind of making the argument that he has a better chance of being a first ballot than DeMarcus?
I think all he needs is winning this game on Sunday.
And he's a lock?
And he's a lock.
Wow. I would have felt the same before yesterday.
Yeah, I was before this. I've been saying I don't think it's a lock yet, but I did say I've always remained. He gets that second ring, he's in.
There we go. Should we jump into the comment section?
Let's do it.
First one coming in from Mr. Undrafted. My father-in-law has season tickets to the Rams. What are the chances I can convince one of you guys to go to the Broncos game against the Rams next year in Los Angeles?
I mean, probably good.
That's pretty amazing, Mr.
Yeah.
Undrafted,
Yeah,
right
that'd be
there.
amazing.
Pretty awesome offer there.
Where did you see that? I don't see that.
It's
Am I out of order here.
Mr. Undrafted.
Yeah, it's
first,
the first one.
comment. If you see
you
it
on
from,
the wrong post there.
I might be.
Well, as you find it, I'll read the next one coming in from Melvin Bronco. He says, "Hi guys, I can't believe the amount of Broncos fans still wanting Drew Lock as quarterback. I wouldn't matter if Hackett or Mike Shanahan was coaching. Nobody could turn him around. If Drew ends up as a starter, might as well appoint Carrot Top as coach. The season would be a joke anyway. What % chance do you think Drew would be the starter?"
See, this type of exaggeration just hurts your point so much. Like, I can agree when you just say like Drew Lock's not the guy, but the conjecture and all that you attach to it it makes the point lose credibility in my opinion. To me, success is all about situation, and so yes, Mike Shanahan I think really could make Drew Lock successful if he was in his prime. Anyways,
you get him one level above what he actually is.
I was gonna say what's successful, because I think a better coach could obviously make Drew Lock better, but I don't think Drew Lock with any coach is turning into a top 10 quarterback. And when I mean that, Sean McVay did an incredible thing with Jared Goff by doing it year in and year out. Maybe a coach can do that with Drew Lock for a year, but for him to turn into a top 10 quarterback, you don't just take a guy. You can't just do that as a coach. You have to have the guy with you, and then you can build him up. So I actually do agree with you there, Melvin Bronco. The step higher is, instead of being the 25th best quarterback, say the 20th best quarterback, maybe. What does that do for you? That just stinks even more.
Yeah, and then you get into a real dangerous spot if you give him a multi-year contract beyond that. And again, that's
but the question here was turn him around.
Yeah.
Which just means make him going in the right direction.
I think turn him around means take him from a bottom 10 quarterback to a top 10. I think it means like flip it entirely.
There's no way getting into the top 10 of quarterbacks in the NFL right now is like almost impossible.
I don't think a good coach can make him top 15.
I'd have to see who we have sitting at 14. But I think it's possible. I mean, top 10 is like just stacked with like future Hall of Famers.
I mean, we talk about Derek Carr being a top 12 guy. Could you see Drew being right behind Derek Carr?
Yes.
Probably not.
I can't.
But I'm not saying it's likely. I'm just saying I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility.
I think
and like I said, I'm only disagreeing with the conjecture of if Drew Lock's the quarterback, you might as well have Carrot Top as head coach.
And I think, yes, I agree with you. It hurts his point. So then his question, what % chance do you guys think Drew will be the starting quarterback?
30%.
1%.
I was going to say 5%. They don't want it. I mean, when we talked, I think, Ryan, you picked this up. When we talked to George Payton when they hired Nathaniel Hackett, he was talking about, he just quickly mentioned, like, the quarterbacks we bring in, the new quarterbacks that are going to be here. They're done with him. Now, it doesn't mean that they're just going to cut him or trade him for a 7th. He may be around as a backup, but as a starting, things would have to go so wrong with the Broncos' plan, in my opinion, for him to be the guy.
The reason why I'd still say 30% is the possibility that you do bring, let's say, if it's an Aaron Rodgers, then okay, then the percentage is dropped. But there are the possibilities of drafting a quarterback and having Locke just kind of be the bridge to that next quarterback. Another possibility is if you trade for Jimmy Garoppolo or sign a Marcus Mariota in free agency and they're hurt, and then Locke is still there as the backup and he comes in, and that's why I'd still say it's probably about again, other possibilities are more likely, but I think maybe 2-10, 3-10 is probably about right here.
KJSTYD has a very, very long rebuttal to this, essentially saying that they can't believe that there's so many people that don't believe in Drew Lock. And I'll just read the last paragraph here. And if you want to read the whole thing, it's a very long rebuttal with a lot of facts here. And it says, I'm not advocating for Lock starting for us for 2022, but he's neither as bad or hopeless or as good as most of us Broncos country seems to think, in my opinion. His career stats aren't much worse than Baker's, and on any given year are eerily similar, but I think Baker is still viewed as a decent starting quarterback, at least one where there's potential he could be good. I don't know, just seems crazy that people view him as completely busted, that nothing could possibly elevate his game to even competent starting quarterback, but want us to draft a quarterback. Any one of the quarterbacks in the draft is an alternative. Where would Locke rank if he was in this year's draft? He doesn't deserve anything in particular. He's not owed anything. It's production-based league, but seems like having him on the roster, learn as a backup, and see if he can turn into anything is pretty low-risk way to approach it.
I'd have him as QB5 this year.
Oof.
I don't think so, man. You really would? Based on what we saw at the Senior Bowl from Drew Lock?
I'd have him behind. I'd have him behind Willis. I'd have him behind Pickett. Pickett's a lot more accurate. I'd have him behind Howell, more accurate deep ball in particular. I'd have him behind Corral.
I think that most people, if Drew Lock was in this draft, just not the Drew Lock that we've seen now, the Drew Lock that we saw coming out of college, the Drew Lock that went to the Senior Bowl.
Who fell to 42.
Yep, for sure. I think people would have him as QB3 at the lowest.
Yeah, and I think I'm at QB 3 or 4 right now. I could see people making a case for Willis. He's got those Kyler Murray traits, and Kyler was in that draft. And then also Sam Howell, I think, could be above him as well.
And Drew was QB3 in his draft, right?
Yeah.
QB4.
QB4? Okay. Behind Daniel Jones,
Kyler,
Dwayne Haskins,
and Kyler.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not looking like a very good quarterback class.
No, Kyler's got to step it up and carry them.
And he could really be the only one.
Yeah, for
Yep.
sure. Next one's from Omaha, coming at you,
This is
Zach.
tough.
Hey, Zach, buckle up. On December 16th, before the Broncos played the Bengals, I commented that I had bet my brother $1,000 that Jamar Chase would win Rookie of the Year. His pick, if you remember correctly, was Mac Jones. Here's what you had to say after reading my comment.
I stand by it all.
And I quote, yeah, I've got to say, Omaha, I'm hurt. Why would you pick against my guy Mac Jones here? And that's going to cost you $1,000 because, unfortunately, wide receiver has to be incredibly special to win this award over a QB, especially when the QB is playing at the level that Mac is. Jamar Chase is going to need a couple 200-yard games like he's already had this season, but he's going to need more of those in order to win this award. You're going to lose $1,000 to your brother, and let's just say my heart's with your brother right now because picking Mac is a good choice there.
And I stand by it completely because what did he do?
He did.
He went out and had a 266-yard game against the Kansas City Chiefs. I said he'd have to have another one of those 200-yard games, and he did. What Jamar Chase did, incredibly special. Incredibly special. Mac Jones, I'm not like hurt by what Mac Jones did, getting probably second in the offensive player or offensive rookie of the year conversation. Jamar, got to give it up to him. After that comment, he had a 125-yard game, a 266-yard game, a 26-yard game, a 116-yard game, a 109-yard game, and a 54-yard game. He was incredibly special.
He was.
And so I'm happy you won $1,000.
I got to give Omaha his mic drop here. He says, well, bud, let's just say my heart's with my brother, too. I'm sure it ain't going to feel all that great after handing that stack over to me this weekend. Perhaps you want to hang those crimson-colored glasses back up on the shelf until next season, big guy.
Nothing crimson about saying Mac Jones is the truth.
It's all love, though, Zach. You'll always have Mac the Truth Jones.
There we go.
Grittying in the Pro Bowl. Peace out. I'm so happy Mac Jones didn't win this award.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are.
I'm very happy about that.
I'm so happy what Mac Jones did this year.
Yes, unable to throw the ball in cold weather.
No. Pro Bowl season from a rookie.
True Champ Fan 24 finishes us off here and says, my peoples. We'll see means nothing to me as a parent. It's the easiest way to say no to your kid without having them melt down at the grocery store.
Thank you.
I do hope he decides on Denver, but at this point, I'm fully on board drafting Malik Willis in running Drew Lock out one more time. Oh, wow. Under what looks to be like a promising system. That's where I am. Hope Vaughn returns, but give me Adams all day in free agency over Vaughn. If that's the choice. As RK said, I want touchdowns.
Wait, I'm
Love y'all.
confused. Was Aaron Rodgers talking to his son in the grocery store when he said, we'll see?
Look, can we not do this?
No, he wasn't.
But you're trying to get people to shut up. You're trying to get your kid to shut up.
No, you are
Yes.
trying to make yourself be relevant
No.
and have people talk about you and create drama and stir drama.
Well, yeah. The thing is, it wasn't like he did it into a camera. He just did it to the fans.
He knew there were cameras, and he knew there were people.
No, totally. I'm just saying, like, to me, it was in between what you guys. It wasn't nothing. It wasn't really something.
Sure.
We spent a lot of time discussing something that wasn't nothing but wasn't really something.
If we're talking about the Broncos potentially getting a Hall of Fame quarterback, if we're talking about the Broncos potentially getting a Hall of Fame quarterback, you talk about anything that's something.
Also, so many people complain about this stuff. This is the off season. This is where you spend a lot of time talking about something that might be something and might be nothing. That's the fun of it.
And we're here 5 days a week,
Yes.
breaking down everything
And
with
this
the Broncos.
Here happens to be the last of those 5 days. Appreciate all of you guys who tuned in all weekend.
That
or
sounded
all
pretty
week.
sad.
It is sad.
That's pretty gruesome.
I felt like I only got a little piece
That's true.
of the pod this week. So
You'll make up for it next week.
We will. Excited to do that. Excited for this weekend. Appreciate you guys, and we will catch you next week on the DNVR Broncos podcast.
One more super chat, apparently.
Oh, buzzer beater. There it is.
There we go.
From BK. Rather build the team through the draft, but Rams path makes more sense. We are a QB away. Makes more sense to me to trade for one with the team's current state.
And I agree with you, BK. I think that's where the Broncos are right now. They're more likely to go the Los Angeles Rams path.
Are they though? Because I mean, the Rams with a, kind of a mid-tier quarterback were having perennial winning seasons and went to a Super Bowl.
What did they do last year? I'm honestly asking.
They lost in the divisional round. Remember, Goff was hurt. They had to go with, I think, John Wolford. In that game against Green Bay. Yeah.
Yep. All right, that is going to wrap it up for us. We'll catch you guys next week. Thank you guys, everyone, for chiming in, and thank you, Buana, for letting us know about that super chat. Later, guys.